Yo, what's good everyone? Today I'm going to be taking a first look here at this Week 7 NFL DraftKings main slate. Let's dive right into it. And like I always do here in these videos, I'm going to go position by position, highlighting the plays that are sticking out to me here early in the week, and then we'll wrap up this video by putting together a first look cash lineup and a first look tournament lineup. But before we dive into the quarterbacks here, everyone, if you could like this video and subscribe to the channel, I would greatly appreciate that. Every like, comment, and sub that you guys leave truly does help me out, and it's completely free to do. And speaking of free, I do run a free Discord channel as well, with over 850 people in there today talking multiple different sports for DFS as well as sports betting. If you want to join that, there's a link to do so in the description below, as well as in the pinned comment below. With that being said, let's dive into the quarterbacks here, everyone. 10-game slate. My first initial look here, I probably got way too many quarterbacks on my notes right now, but that's why it's the first look. Just, hey, what looks good to me? Talk about those players. So we'll start at the top here at the quarterback position. I like both Patrick Mahomes and Jaden Daniels here if we're looking to spend up this week, and honestly, we could put Dak Prescott in that conversation as well. Mahomes has just been fantastic this year. Plus, he's going to be getting Rashee Rice back in Week 7. You can see the numbers here. Had a floor game against the Giants back in Week 3, 13 DraftKings points, showing a ceiling of 31.5 DraftKings points. He looks good at that price there for $7,000, probably for both cash games and tournaments. But really, I think a lot of people are just going to go to this game between Washington and Dallas. Neither defense is fantastic, especially those secondaries. Jaden Daniels is going to be playing on Monday night, so we don't have the Week 6 stats here as I record this, but we know the upside and ceiling that he brings, and Dak Prescott has just been a good quarterback outside of Week 3 there and Week 1, I guess. He's been pretty damn good. 26 plus DraftKings points now in 4 of 6 games. And again, that secondary for the Washington Commanders isn't anything to brag about. Now, I don't love that Drake May's price is continuing to go up, but it is going up for all the right reasons. I talk about this every single time I bring him up. He brings that sneaky rushing upside that we love when it comes to our quarterbacks, but he's just been getting better as a passer week in and week out. $6,300 there. I wanted to talk about him. He's certainly not my favorite heading into Week 7, but again, he's just been really good in his sophomore season. I like Caleb Williams here at $5,800, another Monday night game, had a Week 5 bye, so no statistics here over the last 2 weeks, but just looking at his numbers from the last 4 games, or the first 4 games of the season, he's been pretty damn good, and I do like that matchup there against the New Orleans Saints. Justin Fields, people are going to talk about him, but I'm not overly interested in that, but I do like this game here between the Broncos and Giants. Now, I'll get to Jackson Dart in just a minute. You can see him there at $5,200. I don't love the matchup for him against Denver, especially going into Denver. That defense just seems to be getting better week in and week out. But I do really like Bo Nix here in this spot at home. We can stack him up with a couple of different guys. Really like Cortland Sutton and Evan Ingram. I think we can talk about him in both cash games and tournaments. He's been relatively consistent throughout the year at that price of $5,600. We need 16, 17 DraftKings points for him to hit 3x value in our cash lineups. I do want to talk about Jackson Dart here, though. Like I said, I don't love the matchup on the road against Denver, but just like Drake May, and honestly, it's not even sneaky rushing upside here with Jackson Dart. He is just a good runner, and he did that a lot in college. Brian Daboll's really designed kind of this offense around him. You can see there 50-plus rushing yards in his first 3 starts, and he's just going to get better as a passer as well. So $5,200, look, we have to be talking about him considering the first 3 games here, 20, 18.5, 23.5 DraftKings points. At that price, it's really hard to ignore, but again, it's going to be a tough matchup on the road against that Broncos defense. Now, moving on to the running backs here, and Jonathan Taylor's price continues to go up, but he's just playing fantastic football, and $8,800 is probably still too cheap considering how good he's been, the floor he offers, as well as the ceiling. You can see there he's had a floor score back to Week 1, 13 DraftKings points, with a ceiling score there of 36 DraftKings points. I know a lot of people look at that price tag and find it hard to justify rostering a guy that expensive, but just a couple of years ago, we were playing Christian McCaffrey at $10,000, Cooper Kupp at $10,000. Go back to 2016, David Johnson, Le'Veon Bell, Antonio Brown. We were paying up for those guys week in and week out. There's no reason to think that we shouldn't be considering Jonathan Taylor heading into week 7. He's still below $9,000. Don't mind Devon Achane there, but a tough matchup on the road against Cleveland. Really do like Josh Jacobs here on the road against Arizona. He's not someone who's super consistent in the passing game. You can see going back to weeks 1 and 2, he had 1 target, but that's kind of ramped up here in his last 3 games, 9, 4, and 5. Plus, he's just a pure running back as well, so I do like him at $7,800. I think Saquon's going to be a solid tournament play there on the road against Minnesota. Rico Dowdle, look, we have to, his price is just $4,300, $5,800, now he's $6,800. DraftKings is not discounting this guy. We'll need to see if Chuba's going to play here in week 7, but just hypothetically speaking, if he doesn't, how do we not talk about Dowdle here? Yes, $1,000 increase in price from week 6, but 35 and 37 DraftKings points in his first true starts this season. Someone who's running the ball very effectively and being used in the passing game too. So hate the price jump there, but he's just playing some really good football. Scrolling down a little bit off of that, I wanted to talk about Judkins here, the Cleveland Browns. This is a much better spot this week compared to last week against Pittsburgh. But in his first 4 games, 10, 16, 21, 17 DraftKings points. He is a good running back, using him a little bit in the passing game as well, but really do like that spot there against Miami. Probably more of a tournament play than a cash game play for me, but at that price, I think we can maybe even consider him in cash. Scrolling down just a little bit off of that, I do like Dobbins here in tournaments in that matchup against the Giants. And then with Omari and Hampton on the IR and Haskins not really doing much in week 6, looks like Vidal's going to be the starter here for the Chargers going forward. Really didn't get much of a price bump up here from $5,000 and ran well last week and again involved in the passing game. So those are the running backs here heading into week 7. Let's move on to the wide receivers. And with the wide receivers here, I'd like to break these into different tiers, and the reality is tier 1 is just Justin Jefferson and George Pickens this week. It sounds like CeeDee Lamb could be back here in week 7, but I hope he rests just one more week. I do want to see him back on the football field. Hell of a football player, really fun to watch, but this spot here for George Pickens looks really nice, and not that it wouldn't for CeeDee Lamb, but then you start to spread out the targets a little bit, and Pickens has been balling out with CeeDee on the sideline. So we'll have to keep an eye on this one, but assuming that CeeDee is out, George Pickens looks really good there in that spot against Washington. And then tier 2 for me is really going to be Devontae Smith all the way up to Rome Odunze. And if I had to just pick a few guys out of there, I do like Rome here in this spot against the New Orleans Saints. Clearly the number 1 target for Caleb Williams. And again, we don't have the week 5, week 6 stats here. Week 5 they had a bye. Week 6 they're playing on Monday night. And I am recording this Monday afternoon. Another guy that I really like here is Deebo Samuel. This could be a game that just turns into a massive shootout, high scoring potential, because neither one of these defenses have been great, especially that Cowboys defense. We saw what the Carolina Panthers did to them in week 6, and sounds like Terry McLaurin could be back in week 7, but I really don't think that matters. They're going to want to get the ball in Deebo Samuel's hand, and again, a really good spot for him against the Dallas defense. I think we could probably talk about any one of those wide receivers for the LA Chargers. Do want to name drop Cortland Sutton here in this spot against the Giants. Not a great week last week, but that's over in London. I'm not overly concerned about that. He got the Sauce Gardner treatment. Outside of that, been pretty damn good. And we could talk about those Philly wide receivers, but the guys that I wanted to talk about, Odunze, Deebo, Chargers wide receivers, and Sutton, that's what I got on my notes. But the one guy who's just going to be super popular this week, cash games, tournaments, it's going to be Rashee Rice. The return of him, he has been suspended for the first 6 games, but this is a good spot for him against Las Vegas, $5,600. That is arguably the cheapest we're going to see him all year long. I know this is his first game back, but when we're talking in week 10, don't be surprised if he's priced in the 7K range. Got Keenan Allen there as well for the Los Angeles Chargers. We have to keep talking about Chris Olave. Double-digit targets now in all but one game this season. No, it's not translating to a super high fantasy score, but a really consistent fantasy score. We need about 14, 15 DraftKings points for him to hit 3x value at that price, and it's pretty much what he's done all season long. I think Jordan Addison's really interesting here at $5,100. 8 and 6 targets in his first game back after coming off the suspension, just like Rashee Rice, and I do like that price there at $5,100. And then just a few more guys here that I want to mention. First being Rashid Shaheed, one of my favorite tournament plays week in and week out, and I wanted to highlight here, he is basically seeing 5-6 targets game in and game out. Now, that's probably all you're going to get out of him, but he can score from anywhere on the field. We saw that back in week 5 against the Giants, scored a really long touchdown, 87 yards there, 25 DraftKings points. That is the upside that he offers. And with Calvin Ridley going down for the Tennessee Titans, I think A.O. Manor is going to see some more targets go his way, but I'm even more interested, if we scroll down here to 3,200, in Van Jefferson. With Ridley going out last week, he saw 6 targets, kind of took over his role. And at this price, if you give me 5-6 targets, I'll probably lock him into my cash lineup, and he's a really interesting tournament play too. Next, we got the tight ends here, and this could be one of those weeks where I think we see a plethora of different tight ends being played in both cash games and tournaments, because the reality is I think we can spend up for guys like Tyler Warren, Jake Ferguson, Trey McBride. You kind of have a second tier here of Tucker Kraft, Travis Kelce, Dallas Goedert, and then you get into some of these price-saving plays here. Darren Waller, really interesting tournament play. He scored a touchdown in every game that he's played so far, 4 total. Don't want to go there in cash probably, because there's some cheaper plays here. For example, we have Njoku, who's questionable. Sounds like he's battling a knee injury. If he doesn't play in week 7, Fannin Jr. here should be a safety valve for Dylan Gabriel. 10 targets last week. Really like that there at $3,900. I think TJ Hawkinson is really interesting. I mean, look, 6'5" and 6 targets in his last 3 games. Kind of getting ramped up here a little bit. We don't know who's going to start for the Vikings. It could be Carson Wentz, could be Jay McCarthy, but overall, like that price there at $3,600. I think Taylor is also interesting at $3,400. Again, on the road last week in London, I'm kind of going to ignore that game. The 3 games prior to that, 12, 7, and 6 targets. Really cheap price tag there of $3,400. And then if Brock Bowers misses here again this week, I think we can go back to Michael Mayer. Looked good last week in his absence, saw 7 targets, 5 receptions. If you're going to give me a guy here in this price range getting 5 targets per game, I will take advantage of that. But I want to scroll up here quickly because I forgot to highlight Evan Ingram. I know I name dropped him earlier, but last 3 games, 7, 6, and 6 targets. I really like what I've seen from him. I think we can consider him in both cash games and tournaments. And then we got the defenses here, and this could be a spend-up week for the Chiefs at home. A really good spot against the Raiders because Geno Smith has not been good. Broncos, I know Jackson Dart has looked good as a rookie, but this defense has looked really good here as well. Now they're back at home. 9 sacks last week, 6 the week before that. There's some playmakers on this back end, and they're still facing a rookie quarterback. Speaking of rookie quarterbacks here, I also like the Patriots taking on Cam Ward. This is kind of an offense we've been picking on all season long, although they did fire their head coach here today, so we'll see if the Titans make some changes on offense. If J.J. McCarthy does start, I like this spot for the Eagles, kind of a get-right spot for them. McCarthy hasn't played since week 2, coming off of an ankle injury, but I also like the other side of this game as well for Minnesota, kind of the cheap defense that stuck out to me at $2,600. They got some playmakers on the back end as well, and that Eagles offense has not looked great here, especially as of late. So that was the cheap defense that stuck out to me. Maybe something will open up here throughout the rest of the week, which is a reason to stay tuned for my final cash plays and tournament videos that I post on Friday. Alright everyone, now we're going to put together this first look cash lineup here, but before we do that, if you could like this video and subscribe to the channel, I would greatly appreciate that. Again, every every like, comment, and sub that you guys leave truly helps me out, and it's completely free to do. Let's kick it off here at the quarterback position. Honestly, I'd probably like to get up to Mahomes or a Jaden Daniels, maybe even Dak Prescott, but I love the value we're getting here in the 5K range as well. So for a cash game lineup, I'm going to start here with Bo Nix. And then I'm going to spend up for my running backs because I do like Jonathan Taylor, and Josh Jacobs is sitting in a really good spot as well. So let's get those out of the way. That means we're probably going to need to save a little money here at the wide receiver position, but if I can jam in Pickens here, again, assuming that CeeDee Lamb is not going to play, let's try and do that. But now you can see you got $4,100 left over per player. I'm going to put in Rashee Rice. He's going to be probably the popular play of the week, and then I'm going to go down here to Van Jefferson. Now, this is kind of me assuming, and I don't like to do that, but let's just assume that Calvin Ridley is not going to play, and Jefferson fills in for his spot. Now, we'll save a little money here at the tight end position. Really easy to do here this week with Njoku battling a knee injury. I'm going to go with Fannin Jr. Let's save some money at the defense position. We'll just put in the Vikings there at $2,600, which leaves us with $5,200 for a flex. So, number of different ways that we could go here. I can't say that I love $5,200. Maybe Tyler Warren, but that's a double tight end there. Let's go with Jordan Addison. Probably more of a tournament play from me, but averaging 7 targets in his first 2 games, I don't mind that for a player at $5,100 either. And then my favorite part of this video, putting together a first look tournament lineup. What should we do here? I think we could go with Washington, Dallas. I kind of like this game between Chicago and New Orleans as well. So let's do that, actually. Let's go Caleb here. Let's just do a 1-to-1 stack here with Rome Odunze. And then we'll run it back there with Rashid Shaheed. Kind of saves us some money right off the bat, right? And I like doing that here. So let's go back to the running backs. And I'm going to do a little running back defense stack. Let's go with Saquon and put in the Eagles. Kind of with a theory there that J.J. McCarthy will be starting for the Minnesota Vikings. Now let's go with Judkins here in a really good spot against Miami. I don't need to run it back in that game, but let's spend up a little bit here at the tight end position. We went with George Pickens in our cash lineup. Let's go Fergie here in the tight end spot for our tournament lineup. And then I'm going to put in Cortland Sutton. What does that leave us left over with cash? $4,800. I actually know who I want to go with. Matthew Golden is kind of that Rashid Shaheed type player, right? Don't want to play him in cash, but has the upside to score from anywhere on the field, and they are truly looking to throw the deep ball to him. If you haven't watched any Packers games this year, go watch him play. This is a true speedster. I think the targets are only going to go up for this rookie going forward. And again, he's one of those guys that could legitimately score a touchdown from anywhere on the field. So kind of your prototypical type of tournament play. So let's wrap it up with him. You got $100 left over there if you wanted to spend it elsewhere. But for a first look tournament lineup, I kind of like it. Alright everyone, that is going to wrap up this video here for today. As always, thank y'all for taking the time out of your day to watch the content here on this channel. If you could like this video and subscribe to the channel, I would greatly appreciate that.